Veronica Martinez is a queer artist, muralist, and illustrator based in Chicago and Cicero. Her work has been featured in the Chicago Reader, the Latinx Identity Podcast, and has been exhibited in Chicago, Italy, and Mexico through the art collective Pintoras Mexicanas. She is illustrating for Cicero Independiente, Injustice Watch, and the Trace focus on voting, police misconduct, and education issues. She has created 3 murals in support of the movement for Black lives across the south side of Chicago at 3 Alivio Medical Center locations, and most recently finished Flourish, a 2,430 square foot mural at Yorktown Center with artist Edgar Sosa. She continues to seek projects that allow her to tell visual stories through a social justice lens. She lives in Chicago with her wife and 2 cats, Mimi and Nacho. So Martinez received her bachelor's in fine arts from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago in the spring of 2017, and I'm very excited to welcome you here today and congratulate you for receiving this award from our office.
Well, thank you. First, I just want to say thank you to Treasurer Freyrix for this opportunity to be here and to talk to everyone today.
So Veronica, maybe you could start by just sharing with us your creative process and the thinking behind your artistic approach.
Yeah, so in general, my process is fueled by my belief that basic human rights include housing, food, and education, health services, and overall a dignified life. Unfortunately, as many of us know, especially now after the pandemic, we don't live in a world that guarantees those rights to every individual. And that's where I hope my practice comes in. As an artist with a focus on social justice, an important part of my work is done in collaboration with community organizers, local news organizations, shedding light on stories of those inequities, inequities. Overall, I see my art as a visual storytelling tool used to push for change on issues that affect the Black, Brown, and LGBTQ and Latinx communities. But now if we talk about my actual process when I'm sitting down and working, that really starts with the initial conversations with those news organizations or community members, and really the story that's in front of me, especially with articles. You know, what is the article telling me? How will readers feel while reading? How am I feeling while reading this article? And are there any patterns, contradictions, or strong images that come to mind? Those are usually questions that help me figure out a concept or an image for a project.
So you work in different media, but a lot of work in murals. How did you choose that medium? Did you have someone who was an inspiration to you? Or
I mean, I get inspiration from, of course, street artists, but also contemporary artists such as like, I'm sorry, blanking out. Kerry James Marshall is a big one. His use of like Black people in his art and putting Black people in the forefront of art history. That for me is very inspiring, and that's really kind of how I go about with work. In regards to murals, that just kind of came across. I'm all about trying to put our stories out there, and what a great place, but a big wall in the public space for people to see their stories projected. So I feel like going into mural was kind of an organic process.
Well, we started doing these interviews during the pandemic because social distancing. And I know the pandemic has been a difficult time for many artists, especially performing artists who were inside. How have you been able to weather these changes and challenges?
Yeah, honestly, my community back in Cicero and here in Chicago is how I got through the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I was working full-time as a visual merchandiser with my art practice on the side. And when I was furloughed for 2 months, it was the first time in my adult life where my art was able to have my full attention. So I dove into some passion projects. It was during that time that Cicero had one of the, if not the highest COVID cases in suburban Cook County. So during those 2 months, I reached out to community members in Cicero to see how I can help and where my skills can be most useful. This is how I started painting digitally. It was the fastest and inexpensive way to share my work and help my community. So I started creating flyers for marches, posters. The Alivio mural is when that happened. That was actually my very first mural. And I volunteered my time to create 3 temporary murals for them. And the murals happened right after the George Floyd protest, and it symbolized brown and Black unity. And then I reached out to everybody. I reached out to Irene Romulo, one of the co-founders of Cicero Independiente during that time as well. And she was the one who gave me my first illustration job. It was just all those experiences during the shutdown that helped me reevaluate what I want my art to do and why I do what I do.
And I think this is really interesting. I enjoy talking with artists about their process, about their background. But really, artists produce art. And so for our viewers who would like to see more of your art, where can they go to see your work?
Yeah, sure. I've already named a few: Cicero Independiente, for sure, Injustice Watch, The Trace, both their websites and social media. Most recently, I worked with Injustice Watch to create 10 illustrations for their Fraternal Order of Police timeline. So this is a timeline where they highlighted key events during each FOP president tenure. So I definitely suggest everyone to check that out. It's very informative. And I also wrote an artist statement revolving around this project, the FOP timeline, which was just recently published. So that's out as well. It's my first time writing and for a news organization. So there's that. I'm also working with a team of local Latinx HIV health advocates in partnership with Cook County Core Research Center to help develop a social media campaign promoting PrEP usage. My family suffered during the AIDS crisis, suffered a loss during the AIDS crisis. So this is an issue that's very personal to me. So if you want to see the campaign come together in hopefully the next few months, follow the Core Research Center on Instagram at keepingit.x and keepingitistogether.x to see it come together in the next few months. Where the Yorktown mural is another artwork you can see in person, and that it will be in Lombard, Illinois, if you're in the Chicagoland area. And of course, the best place to really follow my art is on my Instagram, which is at Vero Martinez Art, and that's VERO Martinez Art, and VeroMartinezArt.com.
Right. Well, we know that art has the ability to inspire. Artists do as well. So for people who are watching this interview, is there any bit of advice you'd give to those who are aspiring to embark on a career in the arts? Any advice that you've picked up that you think was valuable to you that you would like to share with our viewers?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for my support system, both in the professional and personal life. So I would say my first advice is to find your community. No one does it alone. Find people who believe in you and believe in your work and will champion you in your work. And don't network for network's sake. Seek genuine connections. I think that's the key part of it. Find people who can be your sounding board. And if you're watching this thinking like, shoot, I don't have that yet. I was in that place too. And luckily we live during the era of the internet. So you can find your community, your groups there. Put yourself out there and don't get discouraged if your work isn't where you want it to be yet. Remember, you have to do a lot of bad work, a lot of bad art before you can get to where you want to be. So if you're looking at something, your work right now, and you're not satisfied, keep going. Get the bad work out of your brain to let room for the good work. So yeah, that's what I would have to say.
Well, I love that advice about keeping working and getting the bad work out. Also, great advice about networking. I think some young people view this as, if I just talk to enough people, something will happen. And it's not about the quantity of people you talk to, it's about the quality of those connections and sharing. And hopefully, people watching here today took something from you. We'll check out your work either in person or through Instagram or various other ways. And Veronica, congratulations and thank you for sharing your insights with us here today.
Thank you so much, Trevor. It was a pleasure being here.